There are a lot of shows I watch on Netflix, and quite a few of them are originally Korean. The translations are often so wrong, and it's like they're getting the gist of what's being said, but the way they're saying it gives you a completely different impression of the person on the screen and what they said. I swear to God, the Korean translators are so bad. Also, there's something that really bothers me. They use the term nerve-wracking very often when translating. Whoever's on the Korean Netflix translation team, right, where they're translating from Korean to English, keeps spelling nerve-wracking wrong, and it's pissing me off. There's a W in that, as if you are being racked with tremors. To rack, W-R-A-C-K, right? They keep spelling it without the W, and it's pissing me off. It's pissing me off. How are you on a localization team and you can't spell this one word? And who's letting this happen on multiple shows? Multiple shows. They accept it without a W in the UK. Use both forms of spelling. Yeah, well, I don't like it. I don't like it. I just think it's important to use spellings of things that don't change the potential meaning. Therefore, adding the W is good. That's all. That's all. Isn't nerve-wracking with an E? No. No, it's nerve-wracking. W-R-A-C-K. Let's hear. The dictionary definition of rack is, what's the right word for this? To, like, subject you to something bad? It's more of, like, yeah, a shudder. I was gonna say, like, if someone is, like, racked with blank, it means that you're probably about to say they're racked with tremors. Like, if someone is shivering, racked with shivers, that's kind of a way that you see that. And then when the word nerve-wracking comes up, they're using that version of rack. So it's to be, I guess, incredibly stressed, and often it has this feeling of like there's emotion, like shuddering or shivering, kind of associated with it. Can it also mean rack as in racking an item, like putting it on a shelf? No, it doesn't. It doesn't share that meaning. It's not coming from the same use of the word. We're talking about with the W. And that's why I think when they say nerve-wracking, they shouldn't accept the spelling of it without the W, because now you're mixing it up more commonly with another word that means something else. So it's better to just leave the W on so people can see it through spelling and go, oh, it's that version of rack, and understand it. Anyway, that's why I'm a proponent of, like, I know people always make that argument. They'll be like, oh, Merriam-Webster now accepts this. Merriam-Webster now accepts that. They're not accepting it and saying it's correct or better. They're saying when a lot of people say this or write this, they mean this thing. Here's the definition of what they mean. They're not saying this is the optimal use or we've decided this is fine. That's not what it is. They're just like, yeah, enough people spell it this way that we can define it because we see it in that usage a lot. English is hard, Dayo. It's a kind of fucky language, so that's why I'm always like, I think it's better to be really particular about grammar and spelling and all that, because for people who this is not their first language, making sure everything is slightly differentiated helps them understand what the fuck is on the paper. But when you have everything like be spelled the same way and you spell things incorrectly, you just accept it, it just complicates it for no reason, and it makes it harder for those people. Yeah, English is a vibe language. It's true, it's true. They now also accept misfairs as well, like I could care less. Yeah, well, right, because when the phrase is I couldn't care less, meaning it is impossible for me to care any less about this thing. So someone says, do you want to go to the store or no? And you say, I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less, right? You're like, I don't care either way, right? But a lot of people say I could care less because the int at the end, the N apostrophe T, is like, when you speak quickly, you don't even hear it sometimes. So they think it's I could, and then they write I could because they always mishear it, right? Stuff like that is so stupid, because imagine someone who doesn't speak English seeing that written. They see the sentence, I could care less. They're gonna look at that and define it and translate it in their brain and think the opposite, you know? So that's why I think things like that should be corrected, because it's literally the opposite meaning, you know? Or should of means nothing. That's a nothing phrase. Should have makes sense. So it's weird. I feel like English is a shitty bag of words. Yeah, it's just a lot of borrowed shit. What about flammable and inflammable? What do you mean by that? Because in my head, flammable means it can be set ablaze. Inflammable means it cannot be set ablaze. Also, it has two M's in it. Flammable, inflammable are the same thing. They're not. They're colloquially they are like on labeling, if that's what you mean. Like how they're used on labeling. You don't mean the actual definition, right? Because the definition of it, like on paper, is different. But yeah, on like labeled products, they will like, you know, put the words interchangeably on that. Inflammable means the same thing, can catch. No, it doesn't. Yeah, inflammable, exactly. Okay, one person said the right thing. Inflammable, IN, means it is not flammable. Inflammable with an E is what you are all thinking of, which means it can be caught on fire, meaning it's flammable. The EN is not needed there, but it's just, it can be. But because a lot of people pronounce them the same, they started writing it with the I, inflammable, meaning inflammable, meaning flammable. It was all not needed. None of it was needed ever. None of this was ever necessary, you know? So it was just, I think you mean non-flammable. They used to use IN for it a long time ago, but because people started saying it meaning inflammable, they just accepted it as it doesn't mean the opposite anymore. It just means flammable. That's one of those ones that, like, the base initial definition is not supposed to be what it is. Easily set on fire according to Google since the 17th century. I've seen it used both ways for a very long time. I've seen it used both ways, and that's the thing. It will always be confusing because I think it's always been messed up, right? This is not, a lot of the things that we're talking about are like new things, like new happenings of people recently using something incorrectly. That one is one that's been like weird for a long time. And I find it's because of industries, actually, a lot of stuff that happens with this. Because someone who is working in construction might say inflammable, meaning it's not flammable. But then someone in a laboratory might say inflammable, meaning meaning it is possible, it can be, like to inflame. And they'll be like, okay, so this is fine. And because they're two different roots of two different things, two different industries use them differently, it confuses the fuck out of people who aren't in either of those industries and just hear the words. So you know what I mean? It's one of those things that like confuses a lot of folks because JD said it, it's to inflame, right? And that's what I mean, like the root in can mean something else. So it depends on language of origin. It depends on so many different things, So there are certain industries where they'll say in meaning opposite, and others where they say in meaning it can to do this thing, right? And it just confuses the fuck out of it. And I feel like there are a good number of words that have been like that for a very long time. And that's it. That's it. You just, you go into one area and there might be a certain type of usage where it means the opposite. You go into one other area and it means this thing. And it's just like, what the fuck? It's just fucky. You're the head writer for a small community lore team for an RP game server trying to communicate information through a wiki in English is incredibly frustrating because there's so many variables to the information received from written text. Yeah. We were really confused with it. Incinerable in English. Yeah, so there's the prefix in has a few versions. And because English borrows from other languages, that is the worst thing ever, because then you'll see a prefix and you'll think, oh, this is like what this means, this is what I've learned. But then language of origin is different. It's actually the opposite. It's actually this thing instead. I googled inflammable can mean combust without fire. It can. That's what I'm saying. It's been fucky for a long time. It can. But there are also industries where it means the opposite. So that's the problem. It's like it's used differently in different contexts and usually by different groups of people. So in usually means not. Right. So that's what I'm saying industry, because there are a lot of products where they'll put a label on there that says inflammable, and it means it cannot catch fire. That is what that means when it's on certain products because of the industry it's in and because of how those people decided to use it. So it's one of those things that's just like, You have to do guesswork. And when it's, honestly, when it's dealing with something like, can this catch fire or not, that's really fucking dangerous to not know when you're just looking at a label. It's really awful. I found, I won't go into too much detail, but with old lab equipment, there were a lot of times where they would write that word on there and it meant cannot catch fire, which is weird because in other things you would see that word and it means it can. And that is odd. That is odd. And I don't like that. I think they should just put the word flammable on there so you don't have to guess, because it means the same thing. It doesn't need the in on it. They should just put flammable. Or they could say cannot be set on fire. Like just write it out. And I know it's cool to leave things on labels that are shorter, but like, it's bad. That's why hazard protocols require pictures. Yeah, nowadays they all do. A lot of old stuff kind of didn't, or they did for certain things and not other things. Yeah, I'd much rather see a little symbol that looks like a triangle and just has a fire on it, right? Like a little flame. So you can't possibly mess that shit up. I don't know, man. Fire bad. I feel like if they print that on the side of something, they go fire, bad, 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 fire, you'd have a better understanding. Yeah, we mixed gendered French with Latin and dumped that pile onto Old English and then shipped it onto a new continent. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff I've encountered over the years that I have a lot of friends that are ESL, and they'll ask me like, what does this mean? What does that mean? And the number of times I have to pick apart the word and tell them why this means this, why that means that. No, this root is from this language. They'll be like, oh, I thought that was like an old Latin word for this. And I'm like, yeah, it's spelled the same. It's actually an old French word that means something else entirely. And I have to like give this whole explanation for a singular word. And then there are prefixes and suffixes, sometimes from different languages of origin. So they're trying to figure out the conventions of like why this works or why this means this thing. It's too much. It's too much. Why say lot word when few do trick, right? Anyway, TLDR, this is why I think it's important to spell things right, or to use a lot of different things to differentiate a lot of words and to not simplify things and try to crunch them down all to the same meanings and blah, blah, blah. It's too much. English beats up other languages in a dark alley and takes their words. I mean, realistically, all languages have some measure of this. English just has it the worst. You got a specific sausage in your skull that deals with language.